You open your banking app. The numbers aren't disastrous. You're not overdrawn. You're not choosing between food and rent. But you still have that quiet thought. I have a decent job. I do what I'm supposed to do. So why does this still feel fragile? You pay your bills on time. You went to school. You work hard. You followed the path you were told would lead to security. And yet progress feels slow, easy to undo, one bad month away from slipping backward. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, but the results don't match the effort, you're not crazy, and you're not alone. Because here's the uncomfortable reality. The middle class was never taught the real rules of money. Not because of some villain behind the scenes, but because the system quietly rewards people who understand these rules and relentlessly punishes people who don't, without ever explaining why. Today, we're going to walk through the 7 financial rules that quietly determine who stays stuck and who eventually pulls ahead. Here's the thing. Most financial advice focuses on surface behavior. Spend less, save more, invest early. But behavior only works if you're playing the right game. And most middle-class households are playing by rules that were never designed for them to win. Let's start with the first one. Income matters less than fixed costs. You were taught to focus on income. Get a raise, get a promotion, earn more. But income does not determine freedom. Fixed costs do. Housing, debt payments, insurance, utilities. Once these are locked in, everything else becomes reactive. Two people can earn very different salaries and live completely different financial lives. Someone earning less with low fixed costs often has more flexibility than someone earning more with high fixed costs. Once fixed costs rise past roughly 50 to 60% of take-home pay, options collapse. And in many cities today, middle-class households sit at 65, 70, even 80%. At that level, one surprise doesn't inconvenience you, it destabilizes you. This is why budgeting often fails. You can't budget your way out of structural overload. Rule 1 is simple but unforgiving. If fixed costs are too high, income will never feel like enough. Rule 2, margin matters more than salary. Here's what almost nobody says out loud. Most financial stress is not caused by low income. It's caused by low margin. Margin is what's left after fixed costs are paid, not what your budget says should be left, what actually survives the month. If you earn $90,000 and have $150 left at the end of the month, you are financially fragile. If you earn $55,000 and have $800 left, you are financially strong. Margin absorbs shocks. Margin creates breathing room. Margin gives leverage. And psychologically, margin changes how your brain works. When margin is thin, your nervous system stays in survival mode. You become reactive. You avoid risk. You stop planning long-term. That's not laziness. That's biology. Scarcity narrows thinking. The middle class is taught to chase income instead of protecting margin, which is why stress often increases after raises instead of decreasing. Rule 3. Debt is not neutral. Debt is often framed as a tool. Sometimes it is, but what you're rarely told is what debt really does. Debt converts future income into obligations before you ever experience it as freedom. A $600 monthly payment isn't just $600. It's $7,200 a year that never becomes savings, investments, or options. Over decades, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars pre-spent. Debt doesn't just cost money, it costs time. And psychologically, debt keeps your nervous system on edge. Payments don't pause when life gets hard, so people become risk-averse. They stay in jobs they hate. They avoid pivots. They cling to stability even when it's draining them. Debt increases fragility, and fragility makes everything harder. Rule 4. Volatility is the real enemy of saving. Most people think saving fails because of bad habits. That's not true. Saving fails because of volatility. Rent increases, medical bills, insurance jumps, energy spikes. You save consistently for months, then one bill wipes it out. Psychologically, that hurts more than never saving at all. Your brain learns, don't bother. That's not irresponsibility, that's conditioning. Modern middle-class life is more volatile than ever, and volatility punishes consistency. Before optimizing returns, expenses must be stabilized. Predictability matters more than perfection. Rule 5. Lifestyle inflation is structural, not personal. You were taught that lifestyle inflation is a self-control problem, that if you were more disciplined, you'd avoid it. Here's the deeper truth. Every system you live inside constantly redefines what normal looks like. Bigger homes, newer cars, better neighborhoods, more subscriptions. Each upgrade feels small, but upgrades raise your survival cost. If your life costs $4,000 a month, pressure exists. At $6,000 a month, pressure multiplies. This is why raises rarely feel like relief. They get absorbed. Lifestyle inflation isn't a moral failure. It's a structural trap, and the middle class is especially vulnerable to it. Rule 6. Time coverage is real power. Time coverage is how long you could survive if your income stopped tomorrow. Not in theory, in reality. 1 month? 3 months? 6? In many developed countries, over half of households couldn't cover 3 months of expenses without borrowing, even among middle-income earners. That's why people tolerate bad jobs, why negotiations feel dangerous, why stress stays high even as income rises. Time coverage equals leverage. 3 months doesn't make you rich. It makes you harder to control. 6 months changes how you think entirely. Rule 7. Visibility beats willpower. Most people don't fail because they lack discipline. They fail because they lack visibility. They don't know their fixed cost ratio, their real margin, their burn rate, their time coverage. So they blame themselves for predictable outcomes. Once the system is visible, behavior improves automatically, because clarity reduces stress, and reduced stress improves decisions. This is why wealthy households obsess over structure, not micro-habits. Now here's the part that ties it all together. These rules compound. High fixed costs crush margin. Low margin increases debt reliance. Debt amplifies volatility. Volatility fuels stress. Stress drives poor decisions. That's the middle-class trap. Not laziness, not lack of effort, a lack of structural advantage. But rules can be learned, systems can be redesigned. You don't escape by trying harder. You escape by playing a different game. Lower fixed costs where possible. Protect margin aggressively. Reduce debt friction. Stabilize expenses before chasing growth. Build time coverage early. Track the numbers that actually matter. Once you do that, something changes. Money stops feeling mysterious. Progress stops feeling fragile. And effort finally compounds instead of resetting. Here's the takeaway. The middle class wasn't taught these rules because they weren't necessary in the past. But the system changed. And now, understanding them isn't optional. It's survival. If this video helped you see money differently, subscribe. This channel exists to explain the systems behind money, not to shame people for struggling inside them. Thanks for watching.